Tonight, I actually have the invocation and the pledge. Each school board meeting, each of the school board members takes a turn providing an invocation, and tonight is my turn. We just had Labor Day, and I hope everybody had a great time to relax and be with family, but a week from today will be September 11th, and that is Patriot Day, and wanted to take an opportunity to have all of us remember the incredible heroes that stepped up that day, those that lost their lives and those who stood in the gap to rescue people who needed rescuing. And it occurred to me that my children don't remember this country prior to 9/11. My daughter was in kindergarten, my son was a toddler, and it's so important that our students know the history of 9/11 and how this country came together. So I wanted to share this video with you from the History Channel about September 11th, why we remember.
I do walking tours of the 9/11 Memorial for the 9/11 Tribute Center. And I meet people on my tours from all four corners of the globe. On every one of my tours, I mention that most people don't remember what they did yesterday. But I have had so many guests on my tours come up to me and say that they remember every single detail about where they were and what they were doing on September 11th, regardless of where they're from.
When you talk to anybody, say, and you tell them where you were on September 11th, they'll tell you exactly where they were, because even though they may not have been in the building, but they'll definitely remember where they were.
People always remember every single moment of that day around the world, because September 11, 2001 is not just New Yorker's story, it's not just my story, but it is international part of history and a history of every single person in the world.
And what I say to my guests all the time is, that's your 9/11 story. And you should tell it, because by telling it, by doing so, you help us to share history, and you help us to keep the spirit of what happened here alive. And I'm inspired by that. That gives me so much hope.
I believe September 11th would be the equivalent of D-Day for certain generations, or Pearl Harbor, or when JFK was assassinated. Those seminal, markers in your history, in your lifetime.
My cousin was in Pearl Harbor. My father and grandfather remember Pearl Harbor. These generations will need to remember.
I think it's important to try to remember some tragedies. Remember that life can be very precious and can be gone in a flash.
These are emotional memories that cannot be translated into a textbook. These are stories that we tell people, and hopefully the generation will understand this here and bring it forward to the next generation.
I feel that a lot of people use September 11th to remember the wrong things, to remember the divisions instead of what brought us together. And I think as more and more time goes by, more and more people just remember the hate that caused that act instead of the love that followed it. We were all one that day. People from New York, DC, all over the country and all over the world. Everybody was united. I think that's why everybody remembers where they were, because everybody's heart was here. I remember.
I remember.
I remember September 11th.
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 Will you all please join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to acknowledge some folks that are here with us tonight that have filled out a blue form on the back table. Christine Kraus is here with us tonight. She is a candidate for Seminole County School Board District 1. Bobby Aganina from Lake Howell High School, here representing the Seminole Education Association. Alan Youngblood, candidate for Seminole County School Board, District 1. Polly DeLucia, Seminole County Council of PTAs, thank you for being here. And Doimus, so close, Palacios, Lausios, I'm so sorry, from Wekiva Elementary. Thank you so much. You're here with Moms Demand Action. Want the record to reflect tonight that all school board members are in attendance, and ask if there are any agenda modifications. Dr. Griffin.
Yes, there's one, Madam Chair. The addendum for good cause is marked on our electronic agenda by a green flag named addendum item.
All right, school board members. Tonight the order is Dr. Calderon, Mrs. Almond, Mrs. Sanchez. Any modifications?
No modifications.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda outline?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. We've got a lot of folks to recognize.
We do. Let's go.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Griffin. Tonight, I am honored to recognize Robert Herr as Seminole County Public Schools Veteran of the Month. Please stand. You can come on up. In 2010, Robert joined the U.S. Army, where he served on active duty. While on active duty, he was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. After serving 4 years, Robert, his wife Noelia, his son Diego, 10, and his son Raymond, 4. Go ahead and stand up, guys. So they returned home to Florida. Robert is a native of Florida, he grew up in St. Petersburg. And while he was in the Army, he was a generator mechanic. His primary job was to maintain generator sets, internal combustion engines, and associated equipment. In addition, he was deployed for 2 12-month tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. So while he was there, he was responsible for maintaining, for protecting residents and removing threats of bombs, and he routinely went outside the wire. So Robert continues to serve his country as he maintains reserve status, serving 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year. In his spare time, he enjoys spending time with his family, traveling, and working in his garage workshop. So Robert, we are happy to have you here at Seminole County Public Schools as part of our family for the past 5 years, and we are very proud of you, so thank you for your service.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Dr. Griffin. Our 2017 first LEGO season, the Hydrodynamics Jackson Heights Middle School's robotics teams were very successful. They were led by Coach Wilt, and Coach Ali, one of our parent volunteers. The 920 Team Surge received the following awards: Best Robot Design and Second Place Champions Award at the Central Florida Regional Tournament at Polk State College. They also received bids to attend the regional tournament to state and an invitation to the North American International Tournament at Legoland in Carlsbad, California. This invitation is given to only 80 teams from across the globe who fully embrace their core values while achieving excellence and innovation in both the robot game and project. They receive this invitation and honor because of our Second Place Champions Award. Team members include Sahil Ravani, Ranjiv Sajay, Nathan Trebetz, Ishan Kabur, Connor Cratch, Carolina Dennis, Ryan Green, Hayden Holland, Elani Segwinat, and Ronald Ali. Congratulations. Our next team, 10-20-40, who many have moved on to high school, the Aqualifters, received the following awards: Best Project Award, Strategy and Innovation Award, and the Teamwork Award at the state tournament. They also received bids to regionals and the state tournament. Team members include Mason Cassiano, Matthew Pagliaro, Anthony Solis, Owen McPherson, Malik Charles, Kailash Patel, Nikhil Shanbag, Hannah Macheka, Chloe Miller, and Eleanor Duffy. Thank you, high schoolers, for coming back and joining us at the Bobcats. We'd like to thank all of our coaches, Mrs. Wilt, our robotics teacher, and Mr. Ali, a parent volunteer, our mentors, parents, and community for their amazing support of our program. Also, we would like to thank the administration, and a special thanks to Karen Crossan, our bookkeeper, for doing an awesome job of tracking, distributing, and handling our money for an international trip and program. It was a huge task, and as always, she received a perfect audit. Thank you all.
Good evening, school board members and Superintendent Griffin. I'm honored tonight to introduce two new members to the middle school administrative team. First, we have new assistant principal at Jackson Heights Middle School, Claudemie Pierre. Mr. Pierre earned a Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of Central Florida, a Master of Education in Curriculum and Instruction, and a Master's of Education in educational leadership from the American College of Education. During his many years teaching, he has taught at the elementary, middle, and community college levels and has most recently served as the Dean of Students at Jackson Heights Middle School. Joining him tonight is his wife, Biona Pierre, and his children, Claudasia Pierre, Bianca Pierre, and Chloe Pierre, and he is joined by his school principal, Sarah Manser. Next, I would like to present Ms. Jacqueline Wick, Assistant Principal at Greenwood Lakes Middle School. Ms. Wick graduated with a bachelor's degree in elementary education with endorsements in reading and ESOL from the University of Central Florida. She accepted her first job teaching alternative education at Oak Hill Elementary in Jacksonville, Florida. 2 years later, she moved to Seminole County and accepted a job at Idlewild Elementary School teaching 4th and 5th grade English language arts. After 3 years at Idlewild, she completed her master's degree in educational leadership from the University of North Florida and accepted a role as an 8th grade intensive reading teacher and secondary instructional coach at Greenwood Lakes Middle School. Joining her this evening is her father, James Wick, her sister, Lisa Wick, and her boyfriend, Greg Hall, and she's joined by principal of Greenwood Lakes Middle School, Breezy Erickson.
Dr. Griffin, Chairman Lockhart, and board members, it is my privilege to introduce the newest member of the high school administrative team, Assistant Principal at Lake Brantley High School, Daniel Cowgill. Daniel's been an educator for 9 years. He spent the last 6 years in Seminole County Public Schools as a social studies teacher, testing coordinator, and school administration manager. Daniel earned his doctorate in social science education at the University of Central Florida in 2015. He's accompanied tonight by his wife, Kristen, and children, Graham, Hannah, and Ethan. Also with him, principal at Lake Brantley High School, Dr. Trent Daniel, and several members of the Lake Brantley administrative team.
Dr. Griffin, Chairman Lockhart, and board members, it is my privilege to introduce Don Bonts as our new Director of Employee Benefits and Wellness. Dawn has a bachelor's degree in elementary education and a master's in education technology. She taught in St. Johns County for 9 years, and prior to that, she taught in her hometown of Winthrop Harbor, Illinois. Dawn came to Seminole County Public Schools in 2015 as a human resources coordinator, serving as the district's equity administrator, the ADA administrator, as well as overseeing alternative certification, performance assistance, as well as a multitude of other HR functions. In July 2017, Dawn was additionally tasked to oversee and direct the area of benefits and wellness where he's done an outstanding job in changing the face and presence of employee benefits and wellness throughout the district. Dawn is passionate about serving the community. She is an active member of the Rotary Club of Lake Mary and serves on committees for Seminole State College and Leadership Seminole. Tonight, she's supported by her loving husband, Nick, and her two sons, Austin, who is a paraprofessional at Milwee Middle School, and Benjamin, who is a junior at Seminole High School. Congratulations, Dawn.
Last but not least, Madam Chair Lockhart, Dr. Griffin, board members, I am pleased to introduce two of our newest area administrators for the ESSS department. First, I'll introduce Erin Mandel. Come on up. Erin is a native New Yorker whose career spans 19 years teaching in New York, Miami-Dade County, and Seminole County. She has held positions as a classroom teacher, a district ELA teacher on assignment, elementary and middle school instructional coach, and for the last 3 years as assistant principal at Winter Springs Elementary. Erin received honors as the Teacher of the Year and Orlando Sentinel Teacher of the Year, or of the Week. We are excited to have her as part of our ESS department and her continued support and dedication of Seminole County Public School students. In attendance with her this evening, her husband Ryan and their children Rachel and Kayla. It gives me great pleasure to also introduce Julene McDonald, Area Administrator for ESSS Department. Julene spent the first 12 years of her career as an ESE teacher at Milwee and Winter Springs High School. At Winter Springs High School, her peers selected her as Teacher of the Year in 2002, and in 2002, Julene was hired as Dean of Students at Lyman High School. And then in 2004 started her administrative career as assistant principal at Hagerty and Lake Brantley. In 2013, she was named Seminole County Assistant Principal of the Year. Her passion for students and support of teachers earns her the respect and admiration of all that work with her. Family in attendance this evening with her is her husband Carter and her sister Kathy. Celebrating both appointments this evening as well is the Director of Student Support Services, Area Administrator Ms. Farron, and Debbie Cottle. Thank you.
That's it. I didn't see the other guy. We usually have.
On back there.
Thank you for being so patient.
Gives you a bit of a complex when everybody gets up and leaves.
I know, it does
When it's
make
your
you
turn
feel
to
a little
talk.
bit like, what am I, chopped
I
liver?
knew you were
Yeah.
up next. Just saying.
They have homework to do.
All right.
We ready? All right, our focus on achievement this evening, board members, primarily about iReady, but also instructional plans, some things that we talk about a lot. So I asked Mr. Sean Gardhurl to put together a little presentation for us, and in case you have any questions or anything. Sean?
Good evening, school board members and Dr. Griffin. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. We are excited to present to you just a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of a day in the life of a teacher. You know, we've talked before in the past about iReady and Achieve 3000, Reading Plus, and all of those things, and we've talked about instructional plans, but how do all of those things fit together? And so today we have Dr. Michelle Pisani, who is our coordinator of elementary reading and curriculum, and Denise Coburn, who is a third grade teacher at Highlands Elementary, also has been a teacher at Castleberry Elementary and Sterling Park Elementary. Teachers aren't supposed to have favorite students, but at one point she had a student named Jennifer Almond who she loved, and so we tapped her for this opportunity.
Know your audience, right?
Right,
Know your audience.
absolutely, yes ma'am. So
Notice you have none of my children's teachers here.
we tried. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Pisani, who's going to just kind of lead us into the presentation, and then we will have Ms. Coburn do her section of what it's like for a day in the life of a teacher.
Sure. So we asked Ms. Coburn to come here tonight because this is something that she and her team do on a regular basis. She serves as a third grade team leader at Highlands, and so this is the process of how things really do come together for them. So it's my pleasure to be able to introduce her and so that she can go through and explain to you how we take those resources that are in the framework and blend them together for student instruction, to have better standards-based instruction for our students along with iReady. So with that, I will turn it over to her.
Well, I'd like to say good evening, but before I begin, I want to thank Dr. Pisani for inviting me to be here tonight, for the board for having me. As Dr. Pisani said, I'm really going to talk to you about the resources that not only do I use, but my whole team uses on a daily basis. We take our ELA framework and iReady, and we use them to do our planning process each week. We're afforded every Monday and Tuesday a PLC, where we meet just to go over the standards and to really delve deep into both the framework and iReady, so we can find the resources that we want to use for our lessons.
And while you're flipping that, I'm going to ask you to bring your microphone down just a little bit so that, so everybody can
Closer
hear you.
to.
Yeah, you can move it. Yeah.
I said I talk every day, but never in a microphone, and I probably should get one and save my throat. So this is the slide that you see in front of you is where we really begin our planning. This is the framework, and we look at the model lessons and pick out the focus standards when we're teaching. If you notice the red arrow where it says lesson 3, that is actually the third lesson of the quarter, and that's the lesson that right now my team and I are in the process of teaching our students. And if you look in the center, it's telling you that we are teaching them how to determine the central message and comparing fables. And the fox and the stork and the fox and the crow are just two of the many resources that we use to teach that standard. And right below those titles, you'll see the standards that we're teaching. On the right-hand side, you'll see that the suggested pacing for this lesson is about 6 days. But as you know, it's a suggestion. Sometimes it takes us longer to go through lessons. Sometimes we can finish a little shorter. It just depends on how the students are progressing through the lessons and who's mastering the standards. So that's what we look at. Now, as we move on, this is a slide of a formative assessment. And again, as a team, when we're planning, we always pull up the formative assessments first. Basically, we use these assessments as a tool to drive our instruction. This allows us really to see what the expectation is for our students as they go through the lesson. And we always begin with the end in mind. We'd like to see the expected outcome, and then we plan accordingly with our lessons. But also we use these formative assessments after we've taught a standard. We'll give this assessment, and really look at the data and the information that we get from this. It helps us when we are differentiating our instruction and setting up our guided reading groups. We can tell from this what students need a little more support, might need some remediation, or what students have mastered the skill and are ready to move on. And we really address that in our small groups, small teacher table groups. Next slide is showing you a lesson or showing some lesson resources that can be found within the framework. On the left-hand side, you see that there is a slide saying determining the central message. A teacher made this anchor chart so when she's reading stories with her class, they can always discuss, well, what was the author trying to teach us in this lesson? And she'll keep a running record of stories. So it just helps students really learn more about this abstract idea. In my classroom, I start the year with cards that have the most popular themes or central messages around my room. And then as I read stories, we talk about, well, where would this particular story, what message is the author teaching us? And then we put the title or sometimes the picture of the book that we read underneath the note cards that we have. So really and truly as a teacher, you can take these resources that are provided for us in the framework and use them however you think fits the needs of your students. And also, every lesson that we have in the framework gives us some text-dependent questions, which we can assign to students to do as partner work or independently. And really what we're challenging them to do is to, I always say, provide the proof or find the evidence. You're the reading detective, so find your answer in what you just read and prove it to me. Now, this slide shows small group and independent work. This is what a typical third grade classroom looks like. During our PLCs, we, as a team, pull the resources from both the framework and iReady and decide, well, what are we going to use in our small group instruction? My class makeup might be different from somebody else's, so I have the freedom to choose what will work for my students. So that's a big plus from the framework. We're given a lot of different choices. But you could use, using the framework, partner work, stations, I call them my collaboration stations, independent work is all within the framework. And as you can see here in this picture, it looks like one student is up in the left-hand corner, probably doing an iReady lesson. And then we have the teacher guided table where the students are working through a story with a teacher. And on the bottom, that looks to me like a group of students that are practicing their focus standard. Sometimes they do that independently, sometimes we like them to do it with a group of students, just bounce ideas off of each other. And also they learn that, you know, there's different ways of doing things. You're not always, the way you do it isn't always the right way, that there's several ways you can get to an answer. This is one of the resources that I really enjoy, the tool for instruction. As a team, we really try and marry the framework to our iReady tools. And if you look at this particular slide, it's a teacher-directed slide, teaching, comparing, and contrasting. But what I always do when I'm getting ready to do a guided reading group, I look at my students' data, and I go here to the toolbox, and I find whatever standard's going to fit with what I'm teaching, or for remediation, or even sometimes I find things for those kids who are ready to move on, that I could take them another level through the iReady toolbox. And as you can see, even on the bottom of this slide, it does say or suggest that there are ideas to support your English language learners. So this is just something that it's kind of like I look at what we're doing and I come here first because it gives me a lot of good ideas and suggestions to use with the kids. Finally, I'll just highlight some of the other resources that are found in the framework. If you look, it looks silly, but we have a car with bumper stickers. And this was actually embedded in a PowerPoint that we showed the kids on Central Message. You know, talking about how bumper stickers, a lot of times it's a very short saying, what does it really mean? What is the author trying to convey? something that kids can easily identify with. And then I personally had my students then break up into groups, read a story together, and then they came up with their own central message bumper sticker. And of course, that's bringing in, they really have to know what the central message is, but it also lets them be creative and do some art, which sometimes I feel like in third grade we're so driven just to get those standards out there, but they also have to have fun. They're 8 years old. And on the bottom of the screen, you'll see some cards that we use for a sorting activity. Now, I've used these cards, and this all comes from the framework, in a couple of different ways. I've had students who've struggled with knowing the difference between main idea and a central message, and so I'll pull them back to my teacher table and we'll actually sort the cards together. And other times I have kids who pretty much have a handle on it, and they get to work with a partner and sort the cards together and really have those conversations. Well, why do you think this is a main idea? Or why would you put this in the pile for central message? I just can't say enough of, when you look at the framework and you look at iReady, there's a multitude of resources for us to use, and we just really have to delve in and decide which resources are best for our students. I just wanted to thank you again for having me, and thank the board for your continued support by providing these resources for us in the classroom. Really, by working with iReady and the framework together, it's helped us differentiate instruction with our students and has helped them meet the Florida standards.
Thank you.
I'm going to, Dr. Calderon had her finger up first. And Mrs. Almond.
That's our secret code.
Yeah. You all can't see it, but there's a finger that goes up.
Thank you so much for all you do every single day in your classroom with your children. It's phenomenal. And as you know, during the week, we have the pleasure of visiting many classrooms and see iReady in action. And I think your summary tonight was impeccable, because so often people say iReady, they think that's the test. And really, it's not. It's informing instruction, and it warmed my heart to know the back message of the tools that you get when you utilize it, because we just see the miracles that you're performing every day in the classroom. We didn't know you got it from resources that iReady had, but just some comment. This year, I know district-wide we're using iReady, and from a district standpoint, we as board members, I see value in it to not have a different type of assessment or different type of framework in every single school, because we have a very transient community, both students and teachers. And so I like that continuity. And now even last week we're at Rock Lake, and I see the middle schoolers are now using iReady. They've used other things. So from a teacher's standpoint, does that help you inform instruction more? Let's say if you got the data from a student who was at school A and went to school B, can you garner that information for you to inform the instruction better because it is a like assessment?
Meaning going into the system and
Right.
look to where they were at their old school. To be honest, I've never had that happen. So
Okay.
I wouldn't doubt that there's some way that we could do that. I know that for us at Highlands, we just got the books for iReady, which we also use. Really, they have some awesome stories that just really bring the standard to life. I know that through that, I could probably tell, because with them comes a list of the materials they used at their other school. So I would know then if they used iReady or not.
Right. Well, I think it's a powerful message that you shared with all of us, is that it does help you inform instruction. It's not just an assessment. And at the end of the day, that's what we want, for you to use your creativity in the classroom. So not every teacher, we see that, doesn't have the same bulletin board, doesn't have the same story that they're perhaps reading in small group or whatever. So thank you for sharing that. Questions for you?
Almond, and then we'll...
Thank you. When it talked about how long it would take you to probably to teach a particular lesson, the 6 days, if you don't get it done in 5, which is your typical day after day in the classroom, do you kind of lose momentum in the end trying to wrap it back up? Do you have to go back and review when you go to the next week?
Well, sometimes we do have to do that. I don't feel like we lose momentum. Most of the time, the time that they designate for us is the right amount of time, but then you have things that come up like the fire drill or something that gets us a little off task, but we're it's able to get right back to what we're doing. We try, it's not Monday, Friday, the way it used to be, how you would teach everything and then Friday you would take the test. Now it might take us 6-7 days to do a lesson and then test afterwards. So I don't feel like we're losing the momentum. What I like about this is that you're giving me the freedom to choose things that really will work for me. And when I can find something that I'm excited about, it excites the kids. So.
And Mrs. Ullman, there's also 10 literature standards and 10 informational text standards. So while there may be 6 days dedicated right now for these 2 particular standards, they'll revisit those standards later, probably even in the quarter or in the semester.
Thank you.
It's interesting, you've said several times that you have the ability to choose, and I think that's one of the things that I have heard is that some teachers, some of the feedback that I've received is that they feel like this is more restrictive. And so can you help me understand why there is disparity in that perspective?
Well, I have to wonder that years ago we were told you have to follow this framework with fidelity. And everyone felt like, okay, we have to do every single lesson that's in here. And I think over time, really and truly, you know what best practice is after teaching for so many years. You know what's going to work. And so as a team, we pick and choose the activities that we think we're going to get the most bang for our buck, to be honest. So I don't feel like, I feel more restricted when I'm in a reading series and I have to follow, because in the framework, I can find my own literature that I might like better than what they're providing for me. So I don't have a problem with...
So if you were to look at all of the choices that are there and your group looked at them all and went, I don't really like any of these, but this is a really great idea, let's do this. Do you have the freedom to choose something that's not one of the pre-planned items for you?
Yes.
Okay.
I know at my school, we were told that we are the experts, that we know what the expected outcome is, and we know how to get there. And we're very lucky that we have one of the best reading coaches at our school who helps direct us. If we ever have questions, we go to her and either get her feedback. She never tells us no. She might just streamline things for us a little bit.
Okay. That's great to hear. Thank you. That's very good.
Thank you so much for sharing. I have a couple questions. I know that you're able to do what you need to do to help your students, and I appreciate that. And I've heard the same thing and have been in the classroom as well. And I get from one school saying, well, they go to the workshops and they're something's totally different than what they're doing, and they're being told that they can't do it that way. Or even visiting classrooms, we may see on a data wall where their information is published right in the classroom. How do you feel about that? And your data, is it in a folder for administration to see, or is it something that is in, the lounge where just the teachers can see and view?
Well, the students actually have control of their data in their data notebook, which we update. And we update just usually myself and the student. But we do have on the wall our data point for our class, our goal for our class. We want to reach a certain amount of minutes with a certain amount of past lessons. It's not saying who passed the lessons, it's just saying we all contributed to this, and this is...
and I love that, so I appreciate you doing that. I just would love to see that throughout the whole county where...
I do know that we are in the process of putting in our teacher conference room that only the teachers go in, data walls, and we're doing that on Thursday. So I couldn't really speak to it yet because I'm not sure exactly what we're doing, but we were told to bring our iReady diagnostic information.
And also in your framework, I was trying to look for it in the curriculum, that it's a part of our curriculum in the framework. I could see that it was suggested into the centers, but I could not find it in the reading in the ELA. Maybe, Sean, can you help me locate that?
You couldn't, I'm sorry, what was
iReady, being a part of the curriculum. I could not find it and locate it.
Right. The framework is really the core curriculum. iReady is adaptive, and so it's you can't you can't say at this point everyone's going to be doing this in iReady, simply
Right.
because they may have already passed that skill, or they may not be ready for that skill, or it may be just right. And
Right.
so with that being an adaptive opportunity for students, we don't put that in there specifically. We have started talking about, and we're using some of the materials to say, are there certain things within the iReady toolbox that we could reference in those frameworks?
I think I'm talking about something a little different. I see iReady in the math framework saying, suggested do this in your math centers, but then I'm not seeing it in the ELA at all. And maybe I'm missing something, so I was hoping that you could help me find it in the curriculum, that it's matching up with our framework and that they're doing it. I have no problem. I love the fact that they're using it as a tool and utilizing it properly in a center, not going into the tech lab and spending 60 minutes in the computer lab, and where attention span of a child is just their age times 2. And that's something that they don't really care much about. And I want them to be able to retain what they're doing. So I love what you're doing, and I would love to see everybody doing that. But I want to make sure that we're consistent across the line with everything.
And I think in one of the accompanying documents, there is something similar to what I believe you're talking about from the math side, where it kind of gives some sample ELA blocks where it shows how it can be used. But the framework is pretty densely packed, so we can, of course, show you where that is, yes.
Thank you, because I know the pacing is different, and then you have children that are absent, and then you have to try to catch them up, and, juggling 15 different groups, that's hard, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Another quick question. We've been talking about ELA tonight, but I've noticed, I don't know if the rest, as we're walking through, especially in the elementary classrooms, a lot more social studies being taught.
Thank you, Sean.
Do you have all the resources that you need from us to be able to have those creative lessons?
I
Or what
will
can we do to
be a
help?
little honest that I think we are lacking in some of the resources that we would need for social studies. We did just last year, Eileen brought out 2 kits, one for civics and the other one for geography that we do use. But a lot of times we are pulling things ourselves, finding resources to use for social studies.
Can I say something? Sean and Eileen and I have been talking for the past 2 years working on this, and Dr. Griffin knows what a big history buff I am. And they have created amazing resources available inside for the social studies curriculum. I think it's just a matter of time where everybody's going to be able to get to the schools to share all of it. And I know you guys are so bombarded with PLCs right now that it's so hard to get to everything, but there's quite a few resources that are embedded into the framework that would be perfect with all of this. So I'm hoping we can, I'll be more than happy. You guys said, come out with us, but.
I had 1,500 bookmarks printed in Sanchez,
Right.
so we'll get those out, and they have a little QR code to take you right to the social studies resources, so we will get those out there.
I'm just happy that over the last 2 years, social studies is really coming back, because for so many years, we were so focused on the reading, the math, and the science, and I felt like the social studies was getting put to the side.
I agree.
Have 10 minutes work on social studies. And last year, I was very lucky to be just the ELA social studies teacher. And I absolutely loved it because I love social studies almost as much as I love reading. So it was very, I guess I was in my happy place because I don't mind researching and finding different activities to do. And we did have Eileen come out and talk to us because it was a concern of ours that we want to do the best that we can for the children. They need to know about politics and about social studies, about what has happened in history.
And there's so many great novels that we were talking about, and in that there's social studies books that don't even have to use as resources, but all the novels and literature novels that you can read in your class, and then you can do the circle and underlining and boxing and all the DBQ lessons that go along with it and writing. It's just amazing. So Sean and Eileen and I sat down for quite a bit of time for the past 2 years doing a lot of it, and they did most of it. But so I appreciate them putting so much effort into it, and I think you're going to love it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. This is a great opportunity for us to be able to glean all of your wisdom, and we appreciate you taking the time. All right, board members, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Public comment this evening. I don't know that anybody turned in any cards for public comment. If there's anyone here that would like to address the board, the forms are on the back table. You can fill those out and bring them to the clerk. Any unfinished business?
Madam Chair?
Under new business, I would like to do a verbal report on the superintendent's evaluation. I know each one of us individually every year have the opportunity to evaluate the superintendent and his performance. And I know this is awkward. In no other job in the world does your performance get evaluated publicly before a room full of people, but that's what we're going to do. So, in accordance with the terms of Dr. Griffin's contract, as superintendent with the School Board of Seminole County, he is to be evaluated by each school board member annually to be completed no later than October 1st of the current school year. The superintendent is evaluated on 5 standards. Each standard includes 5 to 7 professional practices, which are rated on a scale of 1 to 4, 1 being unsatisfactory, 2 being needs improvement, 3 being effective, and 4 highly effective. Additionally, each board member has the opportunity to provide written comments relative to each rated standard. The standards are as follows: vision and culture, business operations, board governance and policy, communication and community relations, and ethical leadership. And board members, each one of you commented on each one of those areas, and we have that compiled for you. And then each of us scored for Dr. Griffin on each standard a 4. And I don't know that that's ever happened.
Awesome.
So,
Well deserved.
I think this year, more than any other, has been, there have been a variety of different challenges and things that we've been able to do together, and I think your leadership has seen us through a lot of challenges, and I'm very proud. I know we had an opportunity to sit down and talk. I'm just going to read what my comments were, and then these are available for the public record if anybody wants to read any of the other comments. But I told you that I believe Seminole County Public Schools is blessed to have a leader like you, whose integrity and commitment to excellence is beyond reproach. It's rare to find a true leader who can create and sustain a culture that deeply values every student and staff member, as well as the community in which we live. Your commitment to ensuring every student find their own pathway to success is admirable, whether it be continuing on to college or being prepared for our workforce, or a combination of the two. You have boldly led our district to be a trailblazer in career and technical education at a time when our community needs it most. I am so proud of you for rejecting the narrative that every student must go on to college. You understand that our community demands a school district that provides excellent, high-quality pathways for every student. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
And that I read into the record on purpose. It's important that it be in there. You have, that's all I have for new business. Is there anything else that board members have? Okay. Superintendent's report?
They're read-only items.
Mrs. Beeman, before we go on to committee updates and board member updates, do you have a request for us, don't you?
Board members, I need counsel and direction in regards to pending litigation, and am requesting an executive session be scheduled for October 9th. The case name is Galloway versus School Board. The case number is 2018-CA 52411L. It is pending in the Circuit Court of Seminole County.
All right, and we'll get that scheduled if it's not already with the clerk. All right, fantastic. Thank you. All right, board members, committee comments and updates. Tonight, Dr. Calderon, go first.
The first committee is our wellness and insurance. We had our annual Wellness Champ kickoff that was well attended. It was great to see everybody enthusiastic. Many new people joining the wellness team, so it was a great collaboration of sharing best practices, and hats off to Dawn Bonce and her team for organizing that and making it turnkey solutions for each of our schools. The annual dividends training, I've attended a few at the different schools, and a shout out to Miss Mills for going school to school to working with all of our phenomenal volunteer leaders. And had the opportunity to stop by our community leadership this month. And this month was held at Seminole High School, and to hear the comments of those leaders once they walked into Sci-High and the aviation program, I don't think there was anybody there that didn't want to go back to high school, just saying. So we can really build that building even bigger. And Dr. Griffin and I got to attend, along with our benefits department, to the annual Cigna meeting for the state of Florida, and proud to say Seminole County got the first place award for our wellness within our corporate culture. So that was great, based on a lot of the initiatives that we've started, and they gave a special shout out to our Walt Walk for having so many participants. And I got in trouble for laughing too hard, but I still think I heard it the right way. One of the companies said they lost a certain amount of weight through their Weight Watchers program, and it was more than what we lost in our Weight Watchers program. And you know me, I always want to come in number one. So apparently they moved the decimal point over, and it was something like only 10 pounds, not 100 pounds. But we've lost multiple hundreds of pounds weight, so we won in that regard too. Shout out to the Seminole Chamber of Commerce. You know, I represent the board on that board, and thank you for every single one of their meetings that they held across the county in September. They had a box for donations for tools for schools, and we got to go pick that up last week, and that was phenomenal support from our community district-wide. Loved last week we all had the chance to meet with our foreign exchange students, and thank you, Minnie Cardona, for managing that. We think it's hard just managing the students that we have within the boundaries of Seminole County when you go to so many different countries and so many different languages, and make sure everybody has a house to live in and a school to get to. And I think the families learn a lot. I know we learn a lot from them, but the students, I know, will have a phenomenal year's experience. And we'll have to ask about the restaurants at their end of the year, because there wasn't a clear theme of what their favorite restaurant was yet. So we'll find that out at the end of the year. But thanks, Minnie, for your coordination and your leadership in that. And that's it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to be back on the school schedule, and you know, it's nice to relax the beginning of the summer, but then the structure falls away and you kind of don't know how to function that way. We get a lot done, very productive for us with work sessions. Casper Chamber of Commerce is having their annual Food and Wine Festival on November the 5th at Lake Concord Park, and the money raised goes to the arts, the Casper Elementary Food Pantry, and also to scholarships in our high schools. So good to support. You can get more information on that if you're interested in the Casper Chamber. I'm a Rotarian, as you know, and the presentation last week was by Special Olympics, and there was a young lady who is at UCF, and she is autistic, and she is killing everyone, including the men, with her tennis serve. She's going on to the World Games. Wow. Very, very impressive. Her work ethic is unbelievable. She does 4 hours of serving every single day and 2 hours at the gym. So I was very, very impressed by that. They do good work. They're having an art auction, the Special Olympics, on Friday, September the 14th, 6:30 to 8:30 at the Longwood Community Building. And this helps support these athletes. They don't ask their families for any money. My husband likes, there aren't a lot of meetings that I've been to yet this year. My husband likes to fish, and he reads Coastal Angler magazine. It's a Central Florida magazine, and there were 2 students in it this month. They had Seminole County school shirts on. Joey Bloom is a senior, if I can read this, at Winter Springs High School, and Dylan Westhelt is a junior at Seminole High School. So it was very cool to see them with these gigantic bass that they had caught. That's my report. You took the rest.
Yeah. Of course, a little bit left for me. First of all, a lot of us have had a great time visiting the schools and awarding the teachers and students and non-instructional employees throughout the county for being phenomenal teachers and students as well. So we've enjoyed that. Don't forget Arts Alive, that the cutoff for the deadline is September 13th, I believe. Yes, September 13th. Everything is on the foundation page. And to the record, I believe now we've raised $1.2 million since Arts Alive has started. So we have an Arts Alive meeting tomorrow, and our auctions are coming at Lake Howell and at Seminole High School, September 25th. And if anybody wants to turn in any kind of movie or video or anything like that, it has to be in by a certain deadline. So everything is on the foundation page for that. Also, if you haven't had a chance, please visit the foundation page, because there's so much information on there. They've done such a great job. And you can now, I remember the day my kids worked at the credit union at Lake Brantley when we first opened it, and now you can get a CFE credit card, debit card for all the high schools. And you can click on the link on the foundation page and get whatever logo you want for the Central Florida Credit Union. And I believe 3 cents for each purchase goes back to our students and teachers. So please share that with everybody. There's not many seats left for Arts Alive. I believe the report today was about 100 seats. So if anybody wants to go to Arts Alive, please make sure you buy your ticket as soon as possible. And the chamber luncheon that we all went to the other day, it was really neat to see all the businesses that are out there and that are supporting our schools and helping us. It was a wonderful event. And I have a grants and great idea meeting coming up, but if anybody wants any information on that, we are getting ready for the grants, to write them. So if you want to write a grant, just go ahead and everything's on the foundation page. That's what I'm just going to say. Foundation page has pretty much everything there. And last thing I was just going to say is we had a great pep rally over at Lake Brantley for the first game. I'm sure a lot of you have all been to some of the different games. And it's so neat to see that Seminole County is one family, and that we care so deeply about all of our children and families. And no matter what kind of rivalry we may have in football or baseball or any kind of sports or band, that we're all together fighting and helping each other. And also I had the opportunity to talk to the UCF interns, and they're super excited to be here. Thank you.
When it gets to me, there's really nothing left. So.
We had the aviation. We did the
That's true. We did the aviation ribbon cutting. That was an excellent event. Also want to give a shout out to Grace Gonzalez, who she and her team, the team of admin professionals who had their kickoff for the year last week. It was really great to see them all from all over the district to come and have their pep rally, and a great way to start off the year with some good positive energy bus talk. And thank you, by the way. We have, for anyone who doesn't want to read the whole big kid version of the Energy Bus, Dr. Griffin has provided each of the board members with the Energy Bus for Kids. I don't know if he was giving us a message that maybe this was more geared to our style, but it's awesome. It's really, I went through it. It's illustrated. It's an adorable version, and when we do go and read to classrooms and go to schools, this will be an awesome thing to be able to take along. So thank you. So, and if any of you have not read the Big People version, you can read the kid version. I'm sure it's just as fantastic. I really don't think there's anything else to cover unless there's anything else to come before the board. Else for the good of the order? All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 6:35.